This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to this webinar number 22nd by Excel Basement Private Limited. And in this today's webinar, we will be going to explore and make our fundamentals strong with the help of examples on dynamic array formulas, which are available in Office 365 version for Microsoft Excel. So I am Rahim Zulfiqar and I will be conducting this webinar for today for 2 hours, and I hope you will enjoy after the webinar and explore, and also during the webinar, by exploring the new dynamic array formulas available for 365 version for Microsoft Excel. So let's begin. For myself, I am Rahim Zulfiqar, certified analytics and data specialist from digital marketer, Microsoft innovative educator expert, certified Microsoft global challenger, Microsoft certified trainer for the last more than 4 years, Microsoft Office specialist for 3 different Excel versions till now, founder and the CEO of Excel Basement Private Limited, more than 8 years of experience teaching Microsoft Excel for different clients in Pakistan and also now globally. And for the last 4 years, I have been teaching into the Power BI business intelligence application, community leader for the Tableau. So this is all about from my side. You are welcome to add me on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever you like. So let's begin this 22nd webinar on dynamic array formulas. And in this webinar, we will be discussing about filter, rand array, sequence, sort, sort by, unique, Xlookup, Xmatch, and also a discussion on dynamic array formulas versus the legacy control shift enter, which are array formulas traditionally in Microsoft Excel. So I will be presenting you on these functions topics one by one fundamentally, that what kind of function it does behave, what are their syntaxes. We need to understand the function syntax, and then we need to understand the application, how we're going to apply it on different kind of situations we face usually in Microsoft Excel, and how it's different from the existing Excel functions, and how the dynamic array functions are changing the way we work in Microsoft Excel. And definitely the family of dynamic array functions will increase more with the passage of time in the next coming months. So the first function we will be discussing in this webinar is Excel filter function. And Excel filter function, the summary of this function is the Excel filter function filters a range of data based on supplied criteria and extract matching records. So it's very clear what the definition is, that usually as a normal Excel user, we have used the filter option or the feature available in Microsoft Excel. So what it does is we supply the criteria and the filter function extract the matching records. So similarly, this function, this array function is also be doing the same, but we have a different kind of examples which I demonstrate in next few minutes. The purpose is for the filter function is to it filters the range with the given criteria. Now the criteria could be a single or the multiple as well. Returning value, there will be an array of filtered values, definitely a multiple array of filter values. The syntax of filter function is the first is array, and the second is include, and the third is if empty. Now remember that for those function argument which have the square brackets are the optional one, and the ones which have don't no square brackets are the compulsory to fill. Okay, so the let's discuss the arguments first. So the first argument within the filter function is the array. Array means the range or array to filter. You are going to filter. Next is the include. Include is the Boolean array, and that is supplied as a criteria. And we will discuss there are different kind of situations where we have to apply the different criterias in this specific function argument. Then we have the optional function argument that is called if empty, and that means that value to return when no results are returned. So if there are no results to be returned, so instead of that, alternative of that, what can we write in that situation? So we fill that this function argument. Okay. The quick notes and the important notes towards the filter function is, the first one is filter can work with both vertical and horizontal arrays. So it's clear that if your data is being shaped vertically or horizontally, it doesn't matter. It can work on both kind of arrays. Second is the include argument, which is the second argument of this filter function, must have a dimension compatible with the array argument. Otherwise, filter will return hash value error. Number three is, if include array includes any errors, filter will return an error. Okay, so definitely if we do the wrong input in within this argument, that the filter will return an error. The fourth one is, if filter function is used between the workbooks. Might be possible that you're working between the workbooks and you need an output. So both the workbooks must be open. Otherwise, filter will return the reference error. So if you are using it between two workbooks to get the data, definitely both workbooks need to be open at the same time. Okay. So let's start the demonstration side, how we can demonstrate it. Okay. So I will start with the practical examples, and I hope that now you can see my Excel screen, right? And Excel, I hope that screen is visible to all of you, and we will be having a discussion and an application of filter function. So in the first example, as you can see here, we have a data and we have three columns to it. So we have some names, we have the ages respective to these persons, and we have the name of their banks. Now what we need to do is we need to filter the data. The person who are working at UBL will be filtered here. Okay. So as a normal Excel user, traditionally we used to apply the filter feature available in Excel, but in this webinar, we are trying to learn the new family of Excel formulas, which is the dynamic array, and we will be solving this situation by the help of filter function. So let's get started. First, I will write the name of the function, that is equals to filter. The first function arguments is the array. So I will select the entire database, okay, exclusive of the headings. So entire database, my three columns will be included in the array. And then the next function argument is for the include. So I will include only the range specific to the criteria which I want. Okay, so that is in my case the column of the bank, and I will write equal sign, and I will give the reference of that criteria which is in I4. You can also write UBL in inverted commas because it's like a text string. So either you can type the word or you can give a reference to a cell the same for the same spelling. And then if there will be no result, so what you need to type in, just like traditionally we use if error in Microsoft Excel. So there is no output, that if error generates the customized output according to a requirement. But here in the filter function, this if empty works similar like that. If there is no result, so what you want to add in if empty. So let's say we are adding a customized data according to our requirement. So as soon as I press enter key, you can see that all the persons who are working at UBL has been filtered from this data. And as you can see that I just apply the filter function in one cell, and automatically it's spread into a kind of an array which is called a spill. Okay. And later on, if you update any entry in this data set, for example, Kaleem is 31 years old and is working at SBP, and later on if I change the data here, so you can see that automatically the filter function, it's updating and it's adjusting itself. And that's very unique about these kind of dynamic array functions. And let me tell you more about the Excel filter function before I proceed to the another example is, so that Excel filter functions basically filters a range based on supplied the original range, right? Supplied on criteria, and then the result is an array of matching values within the original range. And when this array's final result, as we can see in this first example where we have three different columns and we would need to filter the people who are working at UBL, right? And in simple language, the filter function allows you to easily extract matching records from a larger set of source data based on the criteria you provide. And as I told you, that might be we have a single criteria or multiple criteria. It's depend on the situation. And the results from filter functions are dynamic. When the values in the source data changes or the source data arrays resize, the results from the filter will update automatically. So for example, if I change one more record, let's say if I again say Kalim is working at SBP now, you can see that the data here changes dynamically. This spill is working, is updating automatically here, right? So this is the beauty of this new dynamic array functions available in Microsoft Excel. Let's proceed to one more example of filter function. This is example number 2. Now let's say we have data again in which we have three columns: order ID, date, and amounts. Okay, and what we need to do is we need to filter the data from this data source here, but we have a criteria of dates, and we want only transactions which are starting from 14th April 2020 and ending on 3 June 2020. So now we have a criteria that we just need transactions or the data which have these dates included. So we will be trying to solve this with the help of dynamic array filter function. And how we can do that: equals to filter bracket open. First we need to define an array. So you have to select the entire data source, which starting from B7 to D18. And then in the include function argument, now we will try to execute the criteria. And we have a criteria that we have two dates, from and to, and we will be defining that in the include function argument. How we gonna do that? So bracket open, and first we will select the range of date column, all the dates, and we will say is greater than and equals to G6, which is the starting date, 14th April 2020, bracket close, multiply by again the same column of dates, which is less than and equals to H6, which is the ending date, 3rd June 2020. Now this specific part will be creating a boolean values at the back end, either in true or false. If it match the criteria, it will give us the result. If it doesn't, it will skip. So on the back end, it generates 1 and 0, a combination, and from that it generates the results according to our given criteria. Okay, and then what we need to have if there is no data. So we have included an additional text if there is no result to it. So when I press enter, now you can see that from this data source we have filtered all those transactions which are starting from 14th April till 3rd June. Now if you find date in numbers, just like as you can see on my screen, you can change the date as well. Just you need to select the date column, right click, format cells, and from the date criteria you can select any kind of type you want and press OK. So now you can see that you have easily filtered the data. And later on, for example, if you add any transaction or if you change anything, for example, if I change the transaction amount 662, order ID which is 662, if I change the amount of it, instead of 28,321, if I write 50,000, so you can see that this functions updates this data automatically. And that's, I told you, that's how the beautiful it is. Even our data is not in a table format, or we don't need to press any kind of a refresh button to it. Okay, so that's the beauty. Let's go to the third example. In this example we will learn that how the filter function helps us to exclude the blank values. Sometimes in our data we have the blank values and we want to exclude them, and then we need to filter the data. So for doing that, let's start excluding the blanks. So equals to filter bracket open, first uh, function argument is the array. Now I hope you have understand that what is array means. You need to select your entire data set, and then we need to define the criteria. Now that's something interesting. Every time the include, which needs to put the criteria, we should have the strong fundamentals to it, that how we going to define it. So we need to exclude the blanks, and as we can see that in the age column and in the bank column we have some blanks, and we don't need to be include in the filter. We need to exclude them. So we will tell that uh, first we will select the age column, and we will say Excel filter all those values which are not equals to blank. So in Microsoft Excel, not equals to is always written with the help of less than and greater than sign together, and two times inverted commas means blank. So we are saying that filter that data which is not equivalent to the blank, okay, from the age column, remember that. And also bracket close, then multiply it. Second criteria is also we need to exclude the blank values from the bank column. So we have selected the range from D7 to D16, and we are saying not equals to blank. And if you want to have some additional text in the last optional function argument, you can add that as well, or you can skip. Now as you can see that the values which does not have blank has been filtered automatically, and the values which have blanks has been excluded by the help of filter function. Now let's check that there is a person called Zulfiqar, age of 32 and working at HBL. Now for example, if I miss the name of his bank, if I delete this, so as you can see that the range automatically updates because it exclude the blanks from the data, from the filter criteria, right? So that's pretty much awesome that it's updating automatically again. All right, proceeding towards the last example of filter function, and in this function, and as we say that this is the new era of Excel formulas, and it will change everything with the passage of time, when the family of array functions will grow in the next coming months, and Microsoft will be adding more dynamic array formulas to the Excel and for Office 365 users, remember that. So now in this last example of this first function, dynamic array, we will be seeing that how filter function can match the exact match. Sometimes we have data in lowercase, sometimes we have data in uppercase. So if we want to filter on those bases, so how we can do with the help of filter function. So let's get start. Equals to filter array means to select the entire range, okay, of your data set. And then uh, if you have an understanding of exact function in Microsoft Excel, which is a traditional function in all previous versions. So exact basically matches two values, and it also considers the case sensitive as well. So I will add exact function here, and I will say that in the text one function argument, I will select the name or name range, entire range of the bank list, okay, which is starting from B7 to B16, and comma, and text two will be the exact criteria which I need to filter, that is UBL in small letters, lowercase, and I will close the bracket. So as you can see that there are two persons working at UBL, that are Salman and Salim, but they are in small letters. For example, if I write in capital letters, so now there are three different persons with the capital letters of the bank. So this is how we filter with the exact matches, where we need to handle the case sensitive issues with respect to our data. Okay, and anything change in the data set, definitely it will automatically updates here. So I hope the first dynamic array filter function with 4 different example has been clear to you, right? And now let's proceed to the second dynamic array function. So the second dynamic array function is Randarray function, okay? And let's discuss first the fundamentals. and let's make our concepts more strong. And let me just check the connection as well. So I would like to have questions in the end of the webinar. Between, you can hold down the questions from your end. Let me just finish the topics first, and then I will come back to you uh, to your questions. And to select the array in the short times, we can create name ranges as well. Okay, so I have uploaded a video called name ranges on my YouTube channel Excel Basement. You can watch that, and you will find that quickly selection of ranges can be applied with the help of name ranges. Now let's get back to the Excel rand array function. This is the second function we are discussing in this webinar. The summary of this rand array function is that the Excel rand array function generates an array means a group of cells, okay, and it can be adjacent or non-adjacent. So of random numbers between the size or the array is specified by rows and columns arguments. So we can have that there will be two arguments, rows and columns, and generated values can be either decimals or whole numbers. So when you create a random numbers, you can either give the criteria to generate random numbers in decimals or in as in whole numbers, and we will have a demonstration shortly for that. The purpose of this rand array function is to get an array of random numbers, okay, and return value array of random values. If you are a traditional Excel user, you can you might have used the rand between function where you put the lowest and the highest number and it automatically generates random numbers for you. So this is a kind of a similar function, but it has a different utility, and we will have a demonstration to it. So the syntax of rand array function is there are 5 optional, all the function arguments are optional within this argument. So there are arguments such as rows, columns, min, max, and integer. So first, the rows, let's understand the argument first, and we will then go in Excel for the demonstration. The rows, which is the optional function argument, we need to define the number of rows to return. And by default, if you skip, because this is optional function argument, if you skip it, default value is equals to 1. Similar for the columns, again, this is optional, a number of columns to return. If you want more than one column, you have to define the number of columns in a positive number. And if you skip that, the default will be 1. Then minimum, this is optional, minimum value to return. You can apply any kind of minimum value you want. If you don't, you will skip, the default will be 0. Maximum is also the optional function argument and max value to return. So you can apply any maximum value you want to have for the random numbers to generate, but if you skip, the default value will be equals to 1. And now the integer part, as I told you that we can generate the random numbers either in decimal places or as a whole numbers. So we're gonna see that how it works with the true or false. So let's start the demonstration for the rand array function. So here we have a spreadsheet and I will apply the rand array function. So equals to rand array, and as you can see that all the 5 function arguments are optional. So this means that we can skip that. And if I just open the bracket and close the bracket here, and when I press enter key, so as you can see that the one value is generated, and whenever I press F9 key, a random value is generating. Okay, so as you can see that because the intersection of column and row create cell, so the default value of rows and columns is 1, as I told you in the presentation. Okay, but let's say what rand array can more do. For example, if we want to have a random values in next 5 rows and in next 3 columns, so how we can define that? So we will start equals to rand array. We need to define number of rows in which we are required to get the output. So we need 5 rows to have random values. We need 3 columns. The minimum value, now if you skip this minimum value, it will start with the 0. So I want random values starting from 5, that the minimum value will be 5. So I have written 5 here, and I want maximum value 25. So all the random values by this function will be generated between 5 till 25. And from the integer, if you want these random values to be generated in decimal, you have to write false here. And when I press enter, now you can see that you have generated random values from starting from 5 till 25, right, with the decimals. Now you don't want decimals here, you want the whole number value, so you have to write, instead of false, you have to write the true for the integers. So when I press enter, so you can see that we have generated the random values starting from 5 till 25 in 5 rows and 3 columns. And later on you can change anything if you want it, make it like 8 columns, 5 till 100. So I can change the criteria later on, and it will definitely produce the results according to our given required criteria in the Randarray function. Okay, now the examples could be practically how this function, we can utilize this function is, the example is sort by random. You can sort, you can generate the random values, and you can use it with the sort functionality. Or if you have a list of names, for example, if you are working in an organization where you have thousands of employees and you just want to extract some random names, so you can apply this function, but this function will not go standalone. It might come with the index or match as well. Okay, so I hope you have been clear to this function Randarray, what it does, how it gonna work when you apply, and practically with the required situations, this will come with other functions as well to support them. Now next, proceed to the third function, which is the sequence function. That this is another dynamic array function. And first, let's the fundamental parts of it, and then we will go towards the dynamic portion. But one thing is still remaining in the rand array. Let me tell you what that is. Just quickly going through this function rand array. So I just want to add some important points of Randarray between as soon as I proceed to the next function sequence. As the Randarray function is a dynamic array function, as we know that, right? And for those of you who are exploring these functions for the very first time, it's very important to understand and listen very carefully that Randarray returns an array of random numbers between 0 and 1 if you don't apply any criteria. And the size or the array which we have discussed just now is determined by the supplied rows and columns, and we can change later on as well, right? And the values generated by rand array can be either decimal or the whole numbers. We have also seen the demonstration as well. When rand array returns multiple results in a worksheet, result will spill into adjacent cells. And now I hope that you have got an idea of spill, because we applied a function in one cell and it automatically spread into an array, which is called the spill. Okay, so remember these important key points. Now let me jump to the next function, which is the sequence, right? So the summary of sequence function is that the Excel sequence function generates a list of sequential numbers in an array, and the array can be one dimensional, two dimensional. We can also give the starting point and the step value to the arguments, and we can have a demonstration shortly for that. The purpose is that get an array of list of sequential numbers. We will get the sequential numbers. If we are required that, we can use this function in those situations. Return value, what this function will return to us on the spreadsheet, they will create an array of sequential values. And the syntax of this function is there are 4 function arguments. The first one is compulsory and the remaining 3 are optional. As you can see, there are square brackets to it. So we will discuss each of the function arguments, what they are mean. So the first argument was rows. So we have to supply a number to it, that how many rows needs to be written in a sequence function when it creates numbers for us. The second function argument is the columns, which is the optional. Okay, the number of columns to return, how many number of columns we are required to return. If we don't provide anything, it will just generate numbers in rows. Starting numbers defaults to 1. If you skip that, it start from the 1, or if you can have a further preference to your customized choice, you can give any number to the starting number. And then the step value. Might be some of the users have created serial numbers in Microsoft Excel, even serial numbers, odd serial numbers, right? Even we have a chart of accounts list. So we have steps to it, that how many steps we need to create a new value to it. So we can give the increment between the each value. And if you skip that this function argument, it starts defaults to 1. Okay. So let's go quickly to the sequence function demonstration in Microsoft Excel. All right, and here we have some interesting example as well, so that you can understand how sequence function can be utilized in different kind of situations. But first, I will apply from the very basic equals to sequence. Now there are 4 function arguments. The first one is rows. Okay, so let's say I want to have an output in 5 rows, till 5 rows. How many columns? For example, 4 columns. The start value, I want to start this from 0, for example. And step value, I want each value with a step of 5, means 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, so I want a step of 5, and I will close the bracket. And remember that we are applying sequence function in one cell, but it will create a spill. It will create an array for us. And when I press enter key, you can see the results. The sequence with a step value 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So this is the beauty of this sequence function. And later on, you can change the criteria according to your requirement. For example, if I want the output comes in 8 rows, 8 columns, step value will be 10. So definitely it will generate the results according to our given criteria. Okay. Now let's come to the examples. For example, if we want to use sequence dynamic array function in 3 different practical examples, we want to create a list of days with a step value of 1, or we want to create a list of a sequence of hours, just like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., or we want to have the first date of every month and the last date of every month in a sequence. So there are 3 different situations, and I will apply these situation one by one. And I assume, and the prerequisite, that you might be a intermediate Excel user, and you know the some of the functions of Excel, so that it will not create a confusion for you. So for the example one, I hope that is clear. What for the demonstration part, for the second one, uh, we want to create increment of days, so we will be writing equals to sequence. Now, how many number of rows you need an output? Let's say I want 10 outputs in one column, that will be 10 rows. And how many column? That will be 1 column. That this is the current column. Starting value will be the start date, which is in B16, and I need to create a step, which is the 1, because I need everyday date. So there, as we know that in Microsoft Excel, an increment of 1 changes the next day date, right? So when I press enter, now you can see that we got 6th January, 7th January, 8th January, 9th January, just like a series of days, right? As in sequence. So we have generated this with the help of sequence. Now as a normal Excel user, you might not have explored the sequence function before, or you are doing this kind of same work with a different strategy. But as I told you, with the availability of dynamic array functions, now our work done very quickly and dynamically with the help of these dynamic array functions. So this is how we can create a sequence of days. Now, for example, we need to create a sequence of hours. So we need to add some more functions to it. So the first function will be the time, because we are dealing now with the time, not with the numbers itself. So equals to time, then we need to create a sequence. Okay, and sequence, for example, we need to create this output to next 10 rows. only one column, and definitely the starting point. Now the starting point is the 9 a.m., but on the back end it's a number, and to deal with it we need to add the R function. The cell will be F16 and then comma 1. The step value will be 1 because we need a time like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., so on. Okay, then closing the bracket, and we don't need minutes and seconds, so we don't need minute and second. We will write 0 here and we will close the bracket. So now as you can see that we have created a sequence of hours with the help of three functions: time, sequence, and hour, because we are dealing with the time. So you also kept in mind that uh, the dynamic array functions every time does not come standalone. They come with different kind of functions to meet your requirement based on the situation. Now the last situation is getting every month first date and the last month date with a sequence. Okay, so how are we gonna do that? So for that I will be using equals to edate. Now if you don't know edate, I can just read it for you, and after the webinar you can have uh, there are many articles and YouTube videos available on this normal Excel function. This is normal Excel function available in all versions. What it does is returns the serial number of the date, that is indicated number of months before or after the start date. So it will provide the starting dates of every month. Okay, so edate, e bracket open, so the start date is in the I16. Okay, and we will add sequence dynamic array function to it so that it can create a sequence, and within the sequence we will write we need next 12 months first date. 12 is not the fixed number here. You can write 10 here, you can write 8 here. This means that how many outputs you want in this specific column. Okay, so I need 12 specific outputs, and then how many columns output you are required? One, which is in the current column, and starting will be the 0, and I need to press Control Shift and Enter key. Okay, so that's the basic requirement, and if I press Control Shift 3, this will change the format of the dates. So you can see that the months are changing but dates are not. Every month first date is now appearing with a sequence. Okay, 1st May, 1st June, 1st July, 1st August, 1st September. And similarly, if we want the last date of every month within a sequence, so for that we can use another Excel normal function. If you are not familiar with that, I recommend you to later on read that article or video regarding this function. This is called EO month. Okay, so EO month is basically opposite to the E date, and EO month returns the serial number of the last day of the month before or after specified number of months. Okay, so I am using EO month bracket open. So the starting date is in I16, and we will add sequence function to it. So the number of rows we are required, for example, again I am getting I want 12 outputs. Then in this specific column, which is 1 and 0 starting point, and I will press Control Shift Enter. Again, this is an array formula because sequence itself is a dynamic array function, but EO month is not, and for that I need to press Control Shift Enter. And if you see these kind of numbers, don't worry, as I told you in this earlier webinar, if you need, because dates are numbered on the back end, so if you need to change the format, you can just right click, going to format cells, click on date and change the format. So now you are getting Control Shift 3. So now you are getting a sequence of ending date of every month. Right now, imagine that doing it without these kind of new dynamic array functions. It would be very difficult for a normal Excel user to find a solution for these kind of situations, right? And this is how dynamic array is changing the way Excel user is working in Microsoft Excel. So I hope this function is now clear to you with these kind of three different situations. Okay. All right. So moving towards the next function of dynamic array is the sort function. So the summary of sort function is that Excel sort function sorts the content of a range or array. might be you have previously used sort built-in functionality in Microsoft Excel, and with the word sort, it can come in your mind the sorting of text values, the sorting of number values from ascending to descending, descending to ascending, right? So the sorting function does the same, but it has a lot of capability of uh, adjusting itself into different kind of complex situations. So let's discuss this. The Excel sort function sorts the content of a range or array. Values can be sorted by one or more columns. Sort returns a dynamic array of results. Okay, and that's the beauty of it. The purpose of sort uh, function is to sort range or array. Return value, definitely we will get a sorted array. And the syntax of this function is there are 4 different function arguments. The first one is array, which is the compulsory, and then 3 are the optional: sort index, sort order, and by column. And let's understand each of these function argument, what it actually does. So the first function argument is the array. Array means range or array to sort you are required to sort. Sort index means uh, which column will be the base point for sorting. So the default is 1. Okay. Sort order means if you want to sort in ascending, you have to write 1. If you want to sort in descending, you need to write -1. And if you skip, either you don't write 1 or -1. If you skip this optional function argument, default is ascending order. By column means true means sort by column. If you have a column wise data and you want to sort column wise data, you need to write true. If you want to sort row wise data, you need to write false. And if you skip that, it will be false at the default. Okay, so let's start the demonstration part. And now we will discuss 2 different examples regarding the sort function. Okay, and that will also give you an idea that at present how you are doing in Excel, and after the dynamic array, how you can perform very easily in by the help of sort function. And we have one more similar kind of function with a little difference, which is sort by, which we'll discuss after this function. So let's get started. First, I will just copy the headings here, and now I will apply the sort function. Equals to sort. First, it says the select the array. So the array will be, definitely we need to sort this in data based on 2 columns which are different names and their respective scores. Then based on which column? Now we need to sort the data. Okay, we need to sort the data according to the scores. Now score is the second column, sort index. So we will write 2 here. Then which type of sort order you are required? Either you are required ascending or descending. If you are required highest to lowest, so this means you are required descending, and for descending you need to write -1. Okay, and then how this sort will create the results for you, either in raw, this is the raw wise sorting, or a column wise sorting, and we know that this is the raw wise sorting, so we have to write false here, or we can skip. If we will skip, the default is false. So when I press enter, now you can see that I just applied the function in one cell and it spill all over the way to create an array, and my this unsorted data has now been sorted from descending to ascending, highest to lowest. Okay, so this is very easy to do with the help of sort function, dynamic array function. Okay, now you can compare it with primarily what you are doing currently in Microsoft Excel for doing these kind of things. And definitely, as I told you, that dynamic array is changing or reshaping the way user uses the Microsoft Excel. The second example is, now we have a data in a different kind of format, column wise. Okay, and we need to sort that. So again, equals to sort array. Array means the entire data set exclusive of headings. So I have selected the data which is starting from C16 to L17. Sort index. Now what will be the sort index? Definitely we need to sort depend on the score. So that is the second row here. Sorting according to the highest to lowest. For the highest to lowest, we are using descending, which is -1. And as we know that we are sorting column wise data. So to sort the column wise data, we need to write true here. And as soon as I press enter, now you can see that your unsorted data has been sorted very easily. Okay, so these are the two examples where you can use this sort function, but this is not limited to this scope or extent. Sort can come handy with different kind of additional functions as well. As I told you, it's depend on your situation or use case. Okay, but it's very important in this webinar to understand the fundamental of each of the dynamic arrays, so that later on when you learn all these dynamic array functions, so you can add a combination of 2 or 3 dynamic array formulas or functions to get your desired output. Okay, going towards the next function of dynamic array, uh, which is the sort by. Okay, so first the summary. The sort by function sorts the contents of a range or array based on the values from another range or array. Now you need to understand the difference between a sort and a sort by. So if sort is doing the sorting, then why we have a sort by? So there is a very critical point. I'm reading it again. The Excel sort by function sorts the contents of a range or array based on the values from another range or array. Okay, the range or array use the sort does not need to appear in the result. So it will we will be having a base column which will be the base, and sorting depending on the other column, but it will not create a results for that, as we done in the sort function, and we have a demonstration in next few minutes. The purpose of sort by function is to sort a range or area of a column. Definitely the return value, the returning of this function is the sorted array. Syntax, we need to understand the syntax. There are more than four function arguments to it. The first one is array, which is the compulsory, then the by array, which is also compulsory, and then remaining are the optional. So if we discuss the arguments, the array means we can now understand that the array means a range or a group of cells to sort. By array means a range or array to sort by, what that range would be, or which will be the base for sorting our data. Sort order, again, this is optional, but if you want ascending, which is the default, you need to write 1, descending -1. Array on order, which is the optional, additional array or sort order pairs. Okay, there are a few important notes towards the sort function by. Let's discuss this first, and then we will quickly jump to the Excel demonstration part. So the all argument must have compatible dimensions. This means that array and by array 1 must contain the same number of rows, which means the equivalent number of data. Okay, this doesn't mean that array has 10 rows of data, 10 data, and array 1 has 8. So this should be same number of rows, equivalent. The by array arguments can be only be one row or one column. Okay, the sort order argument can only be -1 descending or ascending. If no value provided, sort by will use the ascending order as by default. So let's start the demonstration part, that how sort by works. Okay, so now we have example here. We have two columns, name and scores, and we required an output only for names, and we need to sort the names based on scores, but we don't want score as an output to be the part. Okay, so in these kind of situations we use the sort by function. And how are we gonna do it? Equals to sort by, bracket open, first we need to write the array. Okay, so it is starting from the array which will be the output, so b4 to b13. Then in by array, which is the criteria part, which is the base point of, and we will include the score column starting from c4 to c13, and we will say that sort this column into descending order, which is the -1, and bracket closed. So now we got output of name of the person based on their highest to lowest score. So as you can see there, the first name is Salim. Now why we are getting Salim at the top? Because Salim has the highest score, which is 95. Why we are getting the Kamran at the second position? Because the second highest number. So we have sorted we have extracted the sorted list from a data source based on the score at the backend. And this kind of functionality is being done by the sort by function. Okay, and more ideas to it. You can sort by text length. You can create a custom list, and then you can sort to it. So there are many ideas to it. And now you can compare it with primarily with the normal Excel strategies as compared to this kind of awesome dynamic array functions. Okay, so now let's proceed towards the next uh, function, which is the Excel unique function. All right. So first we will understand the fundamentals of Excel unique function. So the Excel unique function basically extracts a list of unique values from a range, and the result is dynamic array of values. And if this array is final result, if not handed off to another function array, so values will spill onto the other worksheet into a range automatically updates when new unique values are added or removed from the source range. And as I told you that from the starting of this webinar, that all these dynamic array functions are very smart. They create spill, they create arrays, and when the data gets updated, they adjust themselves accordingly. So primarily you can again connect with the normal Excel strategies or our best practices or habits we do in Excel. For example, if we have a list of names and we have a duplicates in it and we just need a unique list, so we have a built-in utility which is called remove duplicates in Microsoft Excel, right? So we copy that list and then we click on remove duplicates and all the unique values remain. Or sometimes we need to create a very complex formulas in order to get the extracted unique values from a list of duplicate values. And remember that there is a difference between a distinct values and a unique values. Sometimes in few situations, distinct and unique might be same, but when it comes to the conceptual side, the unique and distinct is always a different concept. And if you want to have a detailed practical examples and conceptual covered, if you want to have that, you can watch later on my YouTube channel Excel Basement. I have uh, created a video, separate video for that what is the difference between unique and distinct values and how we're going to use it. Because in many business use cases, when we apply this count, when we apply the count of unique values or a count of distinct items, the number is not always the same. Okay, so remember that. The purpose of unique function is to extract unique values from a range. Definitely, that's the simple purpose. Return value, array of unique values. Syntax. Now, it's very important to understand the syntax of unique function. The syntax of unique function is the first is array, then by column and exactly once. And I will tell you that what exactly those means. So the array means range or array from which to extract unique values. The second argument is by column, that is optional how to sort. Okay, by row wise will be false, we need to write false. By column wise we need to write true. Exactly once means that true means value that occur once. All the values which occur once, which are distinct, we need to write true in that case. If we need to have a distinct values to be extract, we can write true. All unique values which are repeating itself again and again, we can write false in that kind of scenarios. So we need to understand the concept of unique and distinct, and we need to very carefully apply the true or false in one of those cases. So let's start the demonstration side. So now we have a small list of software names, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and you can see that all these three words are repeating. So what we need is we need to extract a unique list. So let's apply the unique dynamic array function equals to unique, and the first function argument is the array. Array means a group of cells, so I have selected a range starting from B4 to B12. And let's say if I am skipping the next two function argument, what will happen? I just got my unique list from a list of duplicates data, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Very simple. And later on, if anything repeats, for example, ERP. Okay. Now you can see that if I renamed ERP as well, duplicating, so ERP now automatically has been added in this list. Okay, so if I undo it, and let me tell you the next two function arguments, what does that means. So first we selected the array, okay, and then by column, so return unique values from the columns or from the rows. We know that we have each unique, we need to extract each unique value from the raw, which is, this is the default, so we can exclude that. But if you have a different kind of data set in a different dimension, then you need to apply this true or false according to the situation. Okay, and then as I told you, exactly once means either you need to extract the distinct item. So for having a distinct item from a list, you have to write false here. Okay, and for any, for repetitive or for one time entry, you can write true here. Okay, so that's depend on the situation, right? So that's all about the unique function. Okay, so we have some questions in the chat window. I will come back to them once I finish my next last two topics, and then definitely your question and answers will be welcome. Okay, so the second last topic, which is the Xlookup, and now this is something very interesting, and we have heard a lot about Xlookup, and primarily Xlookup will be understood by those who are currently using either VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index, or match. So if you are a user who is already using VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index, or match, you will easily get the utility of Xlookup function. And now if you have the Office 365 available and you have all these dynamic array functions available in your desktop Microsoft Excel version, so I prefer and I suggest you to eliminate using further VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, index, and match, because all these functions utility now in one function, which is called the XLOOKUP function. Okay, so XLOOKUP function can uh, perform all kind of behaviors which is usually performed by the VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index, and match. So let's discuss. The summary of XLOOKUP function is that the XLOOKUP function is a modern and flexible replacement for older functions like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and lookup. So HLOOKUP supports approximate and exact matching. Also, they support the wildcards, which is static and question mark for the partial matches. And also, XLOOKUP works in the vertical and horizontal ranges as well. The purpose, definitely the the same purpose which VLOOKUP and index match has. So XLOOKUP purpose is to find the values in a range or table. Return value definitely will be the best match. Either that will be the exact match or the approximate match according to the data or the condition or situation. The syntax of XLOOKUP is a larger as compared to VLOOKUP or index and match, and we need to understand that because it's more dynamic and intuitive towards substituting these old functions. So XLOOKUP first function argument is basically the uh, compulsory argument, which is the lookup, then the lookup array. If you have used index and match, specifically those users who have index and match applied before, so they can understand these two arguments very easily. Then return array will be the result array. Not found, if the value is not found, what we need to have in this argument, match mode and search mode. Now we need to understand the match mode and the search mode. So the first argument, let's understand the argument first and the advantages of XLOOKUP, and then we will go towards the demonstration side. So the first argument is the lookup, which is the lookup value. Lookup array, we need to select the array or range of cells in which we need to search the criteria. Return array, the array or range to return, that will be the result array. We need to select only that specific column or row. Not found, this is the optional. This will be the value to return if there is no match to found. If there is no match, what kind of value you need to have in cell. uh, Match mode, there are three match modes here. Basically it's optional, and if you skip that, so this is the exact match by default. If you are a user of VLOOKUP, and those of you who are the users of VLOOKUP, in VLOOKUP, if we skip the last argument, which is the range lookup, so there in that particular function the default is 1, which is the true approximate match. But in the Xlookup, the match mode default optional is the exact match, which is 0 means false. Then we can also use -1 for the exact match or the next smallest. We can use 1 for the exact match or the next larger, which relates to the approximate match. Whenever we are finding any value which is not exactly available, we can go with the 1 or -1 depending on the criteria. And we can use 2 if we are using wildcard match, and might be some of users know what wildcards are. We can use wildcards in sum ifs, count ifs, VLOOKUPs, index and match for the partial matches. Okay. The search mode, definitely we have different kind of search modes. So if we use 1, it will search from the first value default. If we use -1, it will use search from the last value, which is the reverse. Okay. Of 2 for the binary search, which is the ascending, and -2 for the binary search descending. Okay. So these are the criterias, match type criterias, which we can apply. As I told you, it's depending on the situation. Either we are going with the exact match, either we are going for the approximate match, or we are doing the partial match, and we are using the wildcard. Okay. So the benefits, why the Xlookup is different from the VLOOKUP and index and match. So the first benefit is the Xlookup offers several important advantages, especially compared to the VLOOKUP. So Xlookup can look up data to the right or left of lookup values. And as we know that VLOOKUP works from left to right, not from right to left. So Xlookup can go in any kind of direction. Okay, similar to the index and match. Xlookup can return multiple results. Okay, and I will tell you an next example, which is the demonstration part. Xlookup defaults to an exact match, whereas VLOOKUP defaults to approximate match, and I have told you the reason for that in earlier. Xlookup can work with either with the horizontal data or vertical data, but as compared to the current your usage in Excel, when your data is column wise, you use VLOOKUP. When your data is row wise, you use HLOOKUP. But either your data is vertical or horizontal, no need to worry about that. You can use Xlookup for both kind of different data sets. Xlookup can perform a reverse search, which is not available in VLOOKUP and index and match. So Xlookup can perform a reverse search as well. Xlookup can return entire rows or columns, not just one values, because it creates spills. Okay. Xlookup can work with arrays natively to apply complex criteria. Okay, so before coming to the notes, let me take you to the demonstration part. And if you understand the Xlookup, you can also uh, understanding the Xmatch function as well. Okay, that gives you a relative position of a particular value. But first, we have some examples here, and I will apply the Xlookup function on this data set. So we have a data. We have a company names, different company names. We have headcount, the human resource working in that organization, sales, and their types. Okay. Now this is not the real data. Remember that this is just an imaginary data, fictitious data, just to give you a demonstration for the Xlookup. So now, for example, if we need to find out number of headcounts from a data for the company Engro. So now we are not using the VLOOKUP or any kind of index and match function. We will be using straight Xlookup. The first argument is lookup value, which is the Engro, available in H4. Lookup array. Lookup array. Now in the VLOOKUP, we used to select entire data in the table array. Now in the Xlookup, it's very different. You just need to select that specific column. for the lookup value you are searching for. Okay, and then return array. When this Xlookup will find the name of the company, what kind of return you want. We need a number of headcount which is available in that particular column for that particular company. So we have just selected a one column, C4 till C10. Okay, and I will skip all those optional function arguments and I will just close the bracket. So instead of VLOOKUP, we used HLOOKUP, very simple, and we got the headcount which is 5084 exactly matching for the company Engro. This is the first example. Second example, there is a type called B, and we need to find out the company name which is in type B. Now this is the lookup towards the left side. Okay, and we know that VLOOKUP does not work from right to left, whereas XLOOKUP can perform that. So equals to Xlookup, lookup value again available in L4, lookup array. So we need to only select that specific column, which is the type column in our case. Return array, what return we are required? We need the name of the company, so we just need to select the range of the company name, and we will just close the bracket. So we can see that in the type B, the company name is HBL, and we got that. So this is exactly working like index and match if you have the idea. Okay, so Xlookup can perform left side lookups as well. Now in the third example, if we have the data set, but this is in raw wise, we have units, we have different units, 10 units, 25, 35 and 50, and according to that we have some discount rates available, and we want to get an idea that on 33 units how much discount we can get. So if you are a user of index and match or the VLOOKUP, you might be using this kind of situation, and where you apply the one for the approximate match, because we are working with the number which is not exactly available in the data. So you always use the approximate match. But in Xlookup, how are we going to use it? Let's do it. Equals to Xlookup, lookup value will be H14. That is the number of units we are trying to find. Lookup array. So we need to look up the number of units range. Return array will be the discount percentage we want to have. If not found, we will skip that. Now the match mode. Now the match mode will be 1 here, because either we need the exact match, which we know that exact match is not available, or the next larger item. So we are using 1 here. And search mode, we are not using any search mode here for in this scenario, and we got the 7%. So if we have 33 units, we can get 7% discount, right? Let's say if we have 36 units, we will get, because now this criteria is surpassed by the next criteria. So we have 36 units, we will get 10% discount. If we have 37 units, we will get 10% discount. If we have 5 units, if we purchase 5 units, we will get only 1% discount, because this falls in this criteria, which is the approximate match. So this is very easy to use the Xlookup, but the ideas are not limited to it. The main purpose of this webinar was to give you the fundamental idea about each of the function, that how they gonna apply in Excel, what are their outcomes, what kind of function arguments they hold, how they are dynamic, and how they are very much different from normal Excel strategies which we usually apply in different kind of situations. Okay, the last functions before I proceed towards the question and answer session in the chat window, I would like to give you an idea about the Xmatch. So if you have previously used index and match in Microsoft Excel, and if, particularly if you have used the match function, okay, so if you have used the match function gives you a return value as a number, and it find the position of that particular criteria either presented in certain row or column. Okay, so Xmatch is the substitute for that, and the Excel match function performs a lookup and returns a position as similar to the match function. And Xmatch can perform lookups either in vertical and horizontal as well. Okay, and this is meant to be a more flexible and powerful successor to the match functions. And that's the extra advantage when we compare these two functions. So just like Xlookup support both approximate match and exact match and wildcards for the partial match. So like Xlookup function, Xmatch can search data starting from the first value to the last value, and it has the capability to do the reverse search as well. And finally, Xmatch can perform binary searches as well, which are specifically optimized for the speed. And if you have observed that we have issues towards the large data sets and the speed optimization when it comes to the Excel. So these new dynamic array functions help us to make sure that our workbook speed should not be compromised. Okay, and giving you a quick demonstration. For example, if we want to find out the position of MCB company from a list of company names, so what we're gonna do, let's say if I write MCB here and I need to find the position of this value from a list of companies. So I have uh, applied the Xmatch lookup value is in H7, then lookup array. Lookup array will be the company name in which we are finding that particular value. Match mode, either we can go for the exact match, we can go for the approximate match, and wildcards depending on the situations. For in this situation, we will go for the exact match, and for the exact match, we have a 0 here. So it returns 4. Why 4? Because MCB is being located at the 4th position in this company data set, company column. Okay, but there are many usage of X match as well. And concluding my today's session is that there are so many usage and the strategies we are using in Microsoft Excel with the current situation and with the current available functions. Now this new dynamic array functions is changing the way we are working, and in next few months, in next few years, it will totally change the work we create our models, financial models, reports, or dashboards in Microsoft Excel, and this will make our work easier and less painful points as compared to the complexity we create in usually in our workbooks, and we compromise the speed optimization as well. So that was all from my side in this webinar, and now if there is any question you can ask in the chat window. Thank you.